Hello, everybody. I trust you are well. Thanks for clicking on this video here. I wanted to come in and kind of do a little thinking out loud, some brainstorming on kind of where do we go from here, right? I might title this video, the phenomenology of building the ark. What does it mean to build the ark? What does an ark mean in our current cultural, historical context? So bear with me a bit here. I've talked about this with Cyprian or Vin Armani, who has had a kind of hashtag on Twitter, Build the Ark hashtag, and we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, talking through what he means and what we can, kind of discern with this idea. I suggest you guys checking that out. And I also did a video talking about live not by lies, which I think these concepts and ideas are connected. And I want to kind of pivot this channel to the podcast that I have is entitled The Rooster's Crow. And the idea for that was to engage with people, ideas, and culture that, like the rooster's crow from the story in scripture, are sounding the alarm and are pointing to, the pain points and the emerging kind of catastrophic phenomenon that we're observing, that are sounding the alarm in this context, but are also pointing towards pathways forward. And recently, these pathways seem to be more obscured, and I want to make those, or at least attempt to engage with people to make these pathways more clear. I think we need to, while it's still important to have this understanding, but we need to get past the continuously shock and recapitulation of looking at what happened and how we got here. Whether that be the development of critical race theory through, the Frankfurt School and critical theory, whether that be the disintegrating political situation that we're seeing, whether it's the economic collapse of 2008 and the dominoes that are continuing to fall from that, whether it's the disillusionment of people and meaning in their lives. We can go on and go on, and I have been, and we have been through many, many different discussions, but I wanted to kind of pivot and focus on, and this is an invite to those that would like to, join me in these conversations of focusing on where do we go from here? What can we do to kind of move forward and through these challenging and turbulent times? And so I want to use the idea and the theme of build the ark to think through, what does an ark look like again in our current situation? Of course, we know from scripture that, the ark is a container. Noah's ark was a boat, right? But there was also the Ark of the Covenant, the temple, the Theotokos was an ark, right? I think as the ark in general, kind of way to understand it is a kind of container for the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of life, to transport a people through a rapidly changing space and time. Kind of it's a transport between two worlds, right? A transport and a protector of life, the dignity of life through a transition period. And I think we're there. We're at it. We're in the middle of actually this liminal space between two worlds, and it's unclear where it's heading and what it's going to look like. There's and again, it's very easy to just fall back into looking at the different kind of challenges, whether it's the Great Reset and this kind of this movement towards global, biotechnocratic, security state apparatus that, you see these videos coming from Australia and from Canada, and you're seeing the discourse continue to break down. So I think we need to focus on the best we can. What are the tools we can use to build the ark, and what will that look like, and what does that look like practically in our world right now? So the ark can be a physical object. Obviously, it can also be a person. It can be a group of people, or it can be a network of people with kind of certain qualities and like-minded and like-hearted good faith intentions at preserving and moving life forward. Of course, the Theotokos, the Mother of God, was the most beautiful example of the ark, right, as a container of the truth and the life, right, of Christ. And then Christ himself is the ultimate archetype of the ark, right? Following him, following his life, his commandments, his person, his life, right, is something we can do and something I try to do and fail miserably at personally to build the ark in my own life. And it's very tempting to look at the broader global situation, right, through social media or through, other ways of the television and the news and movies, whatever it may be, Twitter, and get demoralized about your personal situation. And I think this has happened to a lot of us, and it's happened in the continuous barrage of decoherence that that is levied against us day in and day out. It wears away at the resilience that we need right now to get through these troubled waters. So, what are the qualities? What are some tools we can use and develop to build the ark? And maybe as we discuss these qualities, what the ark is and what it will be will kind of manifest itself as we have these types of conversations. All right, so I think the thing that comes to mind for me is there are timeless tools we could use to kind of build the ark, and those are the good, the true, and the beautiful. And the question is, how can we update these tools? How can we update these ideas and incorporate them in our environment right now? So there's some things that came to mind, is what has to be central is human dignity, right? And my perspective, ultimately, it's Christ. But, we have to have the respect and the dignity for the human being in mind when we're working through building networks and relationships of people and places to kind of move forward here. I think one of the, if not the most important quality to have is humility, right? Having humility and a good faith seeking for the true and the good in all endeavors, in all relationships, personal, professional, is to have at the root this humility and this good faith seeking for the true and the good. That means not saying, and this speaks to the live not by lies, Solzhenitsyn's speech from the mid-70s, right? And Jordan Peterson has this idea, tell the truth, but at least don't lie, right? The way we can incorporate that into our lives is don't get bogged into arguments where you're sharing information or you're saying information that you don't believe in. And you're saying it because it will destroy an argument, or it will make someone feel bad, or maybe even reconsider their position. I think it's important and it's paramount for us to have humility, and it's important to focus on the human relationships that we have in our lives, and to continuously bring it back to our personal, mental, spiritual, emotional health, right? And the health of our relationships with those closest to us. And that will kind of create a ripple effect. And we have to trust that will happen, and it will happen. And as we can build these relationships and deepen these relationships, we can kind of move the goalpost or the frame out into a broader context. But if we start in that broader context, from the outset, it's like we get over analysis paralysis. You kind of get frozen because it seems such an ominous task to, start really building, a global or a larger, broader, solution space for the ever increasing problems that are about us. Integrity, I think, speaks to this. So integrity in personal relationships, again, and I'm not saying that I don't fail at this all the time. I do, of being whole and again, saying what you mean and mean what you say, with an open heart, right, and a prayerful heart, and using restraint and active care and concern for people, especially care for the young. And I think this is a big practical tool that I've used in my life that I think is paramount, is get involved in an embodied care for others, right? Provide care, guidance, love for others. I've taken an interest in, it can be something like Pee Wee football, right? So I'm coaching my son's Pee Wee football league. And just out of that, the community that's developed and that has emerged out of the parents and the coaches and the kids all endeavoring and coming together to practice day in and day out and play games every weekend. This is like the most real kind of relationships, right, that we can have right now in our communities, right? Church, of course, is a great one, but a lot of communities aren't centered around churches anymore, and that those communities are so small. It's kind of hard to branch out for those, but I think that's a big one as well. But in a more practical sense, we've all been in situations where we've been isolated from our neighbors and from our family members. I think that we need to start changing that little by little. It doesn't have to be all done and immediately. Again, it can be daunting when trying to look through the broader lens there. But get involved in your community, whether that's helping. I think it's important, and we focus on the youth because of the challenges that they've faced and they're going to continue to face. They're actually going to be the leaders that are going to be driving civilization through to the other side, whatever that may look like. So as much support and love and concern and care that we can give the youth and the young kiddos is kind of, I think, a central theme and a central tool we can use to build the ark, right? Just quickly, the ark can look like a poem, right? Dante's Inferno is ark, something that infers a meaning, a real, embodied, kind of authentic, transcendent, and immanent meaning within a person, a people, or a group of people that develops kind of like a collective immune system to work through, the ups and downs and the difficulties that we're currently facing here. All right, so care, concern for others, reorient yourself to relationship with your neighbors. I know there's been a big divide in our neighborhood. We used to have a really close knit group of about 10 homes where we would get together all the time, and over the last year and a half that has disintegrated almost completely. And there has been grudges and disagreements that aren't even really there, that just they're meant to, they linger, and then the actual issue at hand gets lost, and then the relationship is broken. Social ties are really reinforced through embodied human encounters, and we've been cut off from that. But we're not cut off anymore. And even if we are in areas or locations where there are social distancings and things of that nature, you have to be able to navigate, right, and reach out to other people. And if you put it out there, people will want to re-engage or engage and have small gatherings and have gatherings. And again, I think this is why it's important to get into, Little League baseball or football or swimming, whatever it is that we can do as a community that orients us collectively towards the well-being of the children in our community. We used to have a large number of kids that would play together weekly, all the time at, this neighbor's pool, or, this person would have a party. And with that disintegrating, it's time to refocus on that. That's why I think it's important to find activities and clubs or things of that nature to kind of really get involved in. I think we have to keep in this sense forgiveness and reconciliation in the forefront, right? So humility, restraint, active care, and then forgiveness and reconciliation has to be kind of in the fold here, because I think as people realize some of the things, in myself included, that they've allowed themselves to agree with, or that they never would think in their entire lifetime that they would be engaged in certain activities or certain lines of reasoning or thinking, there's going to be a reckoning. And a lot of times that comes with a retreat into denial, or even worse, a kind of a doubling down or whatnot. So I think forgiveness and reconciliation have to be at the heart of rekindling relationships between families, between neighbors, between communities, and between each other, all of us here. And my invitation is to kind of endeavor in this next tool, which I think is is generative rather than adversarial debates or discussions or dialogues. Right, John Vervaeke's Dialogos is a wonderful example to use. It's one that I try to use as much as I can. But have conversations, and again, it goes back to the central theme that we talked at the beginning of a good faith seeking for the true and the good. It's easier said than done, and we have to have discernment and awareness of when we fall into patterns of saying stuff that we don't believe, saying stuff just to win or get a head on with someone, right? You got to be mindful and have discernment when you do fall into that, because you will fall into these old patterns that have been kind of ingrained into, especially these last couple of years with the heightened political, economic, and health measures that we've seen that have led to this decoherence, right? So adversarial, generative rather than adversarial discussions. And it's about building resilience personally, professionally, and within your family, right? Resilience, becoming anti-fragile. Because there's going to continue, we're always going to be facing an onslaught, and it seems obviously that's accelerating here, of difficulties and challenges, whether it's the virus or the measures put in place to combat the virus, or the medical procedure that now seems to be being forced on everyone. The continued breakdown in the political and military situation, and the sheer gaslighting that's happening at every level. There's nothing more important than to develop resilience and become anti-fragile. And I think that comes with this is where prayer and communion with Christ comes in, from my experience. And you can tell in my life, that addictions and proclivities to behaviors that kind of sedate you or anesthetize you they creep in more and more, and they don't have to be severe, but they can be something as drinking more, or becoming kind of despondent. I found myself having slowly different old behaviors and habits start to increase, right? And it's about becoming aware of those, becoming mindful of those, and then putting things in place, putting it in perspective to start addressing them, right? And what seems to work for me, and I think, again, it's important, and I keep harking on this, it is help others, right? If you have an issue that you're dealing with yourself, the best way to work through it is to help others, is to share love, care, and concern for others. I think that's why in the 12-step program, one of the most important tenets is to help other addicts after one has recovered from addiction. One of the keys is to help others that are in kind of similar places that one was in before. So all of this is talking through what does the ark look like? Build the ark, right? These are the tools that we can use to really practically kind of build the ark. Another one is discernment with regards to technology and social media, right? If you are, and again, you'll have to have awareness and discernment. If you are using Facebook for, arguments, if you're using Facebook for long periods of time that you're not really aware of, and you catch yourself, that's one of the main tenets you'll have to do to recapture your attention, right? Your attention is your care, your love, and your attention is the most powerful tool that you have. And it seems to keep getting trapped in these attractors of social media, which really bring out the worst angels of our humanity. So catching ourselves when we get into these different habits, whether it's taking Facebook or social media off of your phone or deleting it completely. But I don't think we can kind of get away from these tools. And I think we're going to end up having to use these tools to build the ark, right? I think they're going to have to be, reverse engineered in a sense, to start selecting for the good. That's been a topic of conversation, or a topic that comes up in my conversations all the time. And it's not like you're going to be able to go and, work with Google or with Facebook to have an effect on their algorithms. But there are things you can do in your personal and the networks that you develop to share, information with integrity, and to share information that is generative, that is, under the bridge or under the arc of good faith seeking for the true and the good. And I will find myself sharing, information that just kind of proves my point that I've been trying to make, whether it's with ivermectin or with the challenges with the forced medical procedures that they're doing. And even stuff that I know is not exactly true. I'll read an article and I'll share it, and I'm like, oh, that's not exactly the case. But the way that they're, making the argument is going to give me a one up on this text thread that I've had ongoing for the last year and a half. So just trying to be mindful of that. Of course, reciprocal relationships of helping each other out, right, and having meaningful dialogue rooted in care and concern with the closest people to you. And I think through these few tools that I talked about here, and I want to have more thoughts on this, and I'd love to have more conversations with you guys. If you guys know anyone, to kind of up level the conversation here and really identify pathways forward and practical tools we can use for ourselves and our families and for the networks that we are part of to build resilient, anti-fragile relationships with each other and continue through the continued difficulties that are kind of coming up ahead. A big one is a big tool is the relationship with the transcendent. The death of God is a real thing, and the effects of which we are seeing now amplified in our community and in our society. So, meaningfully re-engaging with the transcendent, with Christ, is a key. But I think a lot of people are not there to even consider that. So I don't know what are, there are actually a lot of different pathways into, at least getting back to at least understanding or trying to develop a relationship with Christ. I think is, something like the symbolic world, of course, which, I'm very attracted to, the work of Jonathan Peugeot. There's a lot of people like that now that are not overtly, kind of beating you over the head with, Christian morals. And it's not even about morals in a sense. And I think to get an understanding there, to get a foothold into the way we can think through who Christ was, what his life is, and what is our role in that, in his life, whatever ways and tools we can use to understand that and cultivate that understanding in our lives and share it with those that we love and that are closest to us. So yeah, that's just kind of introductory remarks on this kind of build the ark theme, this phenomenology of the ark. I don't know what it's going to look like, and I don't know that we'll know or be able to perceive what it looks like until there's some structure there already, which I think is starting. But it's my commitment to you guys that follow my channel and subscribe. I appreciate you guys to continue and really focus on pivoting the conversation towards building the new and building the ark. If this resonates with you guys, if you're interested in, again, and want to engage, please let me know. This was just some introductory thoughts here. And I think I look forward to engaging with you all. And I guess lastly, we need to have courage. Courage is important right now. Bravery, leadership, and standing up for what's right? And doing that there's no small way to do that. You can do it in the smallest way, at work or at home or whatever it may be. It does not have to be this noble, world-changing act of bravery and heroism, but you can be a hero, 100 times a day, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with your husband or your wife, whether it's with your mom who you haven't talked to in a while, whether it's a neighbor that has been ostracized for whatever reason, be the hero. That's part of it, right? So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to circling back with you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.